What's up, Leafs fans? Welcome back to another Leafs Nation After Dark. I'm Zack, Phillips, and today we're going to be taking a look at game number 57 in the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season as they take down the Chicago Blackhawks here tonight, 5-2. And what is a pretty nice game considering and way to cap off this weekend, considering all the depth contributions. You know, last night we have the Alex Steeves / Pontus Holmberg game. Then tonight you get 2 goals from Nick Robertson. You get both of your defensemen on the board, your shutdown pair defensemen actually, even on top of that, in Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev. And you even look down and you get another goal from Pontus Holmberg there, who caps his weekend off with 3 for himself. So that's got to feel pretty good. And, you know, last night I felt like it was maybe a bit of a quiet night, a weird night all the way around from maybe some of the big guys, where it wasn't like they were sticking out and dominating. I thought they looked fine, but I didn't think that they were taking over. And then it was a night like tonight where I look at it and it was like Austin Matthews looked dangerous. Mitch looked pretty sharp at times there. William Nylander, I thought, outside of the third line in Max Domi, John Tavares, or Max Domi, excuse me, Nick Robertson and Bobby McMahon on that third line, it was William Nylander who stepped up and was the best player outside of them for this Leafs team through what was basically a kind of slower, more quiet first period and then into the second there as it went along. So, I mean, you even had your stars looking pretty good, looking pretty dangerous, and you got the depth contributions, and you got goaltending here throughout the weekend. And, you know, Joseph Woll finishes tonight with 25 saves on 27 shots against. He's got a .926 save percentage on this one. Last night, we talked about how Anthony Stolarz finished with a .912 and 31 saves for him, 3 goals against. And those 3 goals that he let in, I don't think we're all looking at, or he's looking at, or the goalie coaches are looking at saying, what the hell was that? So, you know, other than really that late push by Carolina last night and kind of letting off your foot off the gas a little bit in the third period, this is a pretty decent weekend. And, you know, you look at this one here today, it was I don't want to say like ugly might be the best way to put it, first period, but, you know, it was ugly for both teams, and it's weird because I can't give them any excuse of, a back-to-back. Chicago played last night as well, so they're both coming off it. They're both dealing with the exact same 2-week break leading into this game as well, so everyone is kind of even playing field going into this back-to-back here today for the most part. You know, everyone should be able to be on the same foot. Chicago kind of took control of the game to start there, and then the Leafs just said, no, we're not letting this happen, and they flipped this thing on its head, and they took over, dominated the rest of the way, and it was pretty much a no-doubter from, you know, late first period on throughout the rest of the game. And I say late first period, and that was even at a point in the game when you were trailing. So we'll dig into all of that here tonight. I don't know how, we'll see how long tonight's show goes here. Obviously, we've got some stuff to get to. We've got segments to get to, including our play of the game, our grade of the game. We'll get to our best bet and recap everything that went on in that one. All of that and much more. And tonight's show is a presentation of Bet365, proud partner of the Leafs Nation pregame and the Leafs Nation After Dark. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION, NATION, all caps, NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And, you know, you guys are a massive part of this show here. It is just me talking, but it is not to nobody. It is to all of you who are watching in the chat, those of you who are watching on YouTube, Facebook. I'm reading it all, trying to kind of dig through the comments and see what people are saying and how everyone feels about this one. So I want to get your thoughts, your opinions on this, and I'll pick through and try to answer questions. And on top of that, if you do want to send in, you want to get your question or your comment featured on the show, you can send in a super chat. So we have a super chat sponsor this season on the show. Proceeds from your super chats, whether you're sending in a question or a comment, or you just want to donate money, our proceeds are going to Sick Kids Charity. It's an awesome cause that we've got here, part of the show this season, whether it's on the morning show or it's here on the After Dark. So you send those in. I will read all of them, no matter what they are, what they say, any of that kind of stuff. Send them over, and I'll try to answer them. But as we kind of open this thing up, and I have some thoughts on my own, but I want to read off some stuff happening in the chat to kind of get this thing going and see where we're at here on this one. Because, you know, I felt like today was just kind of a weird start, sloppy, but like sloppy and low event first period. Chicago had a couple of chances. Joseph Woll was pretty good for them. And outside of that, it was like, all right, whatever. And we just kind of let it be. You were playing for first place in the Atlantic here tonight, so this game kind of actually did mean something. But then after the second period, you kind of dialed it in and you got it going, and next thing you know, you've won 5 of your last 6 and depth contributions and all that kind of stuff. All right, let me start with this one because I think that there's something to this. And it's been a really interesting thing to follow along with this season. And I know he fell asleep for like 8, maybe longer, honestly, like 8 to 12 games there not too long ago. But William Nylander is having a hell of a year. He signed that contract and he's lived up to every single moment of it, other than really that period of time where he kind of disappeared a little bit. But, that was even a point where it was like he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't putting up goals the way that he was prior to it or producing the way he is, even looking at it right now. Like, I see comments there, and I want to kind of bring these up. Mike Batson, first of all, Holmberg playing well with Nylander. And then on top of that, Robert Smith. Nylander's pretty much your best player every game. Nothing new there, Zack. And I think that that's kind of true. Like, through the first period where we were looking around talking about this uneventful game, slow, not like things were getting going too much there. Guys weren't, generating crazy chances up and down the ice or anything like that. It was William Nylander who was really sticking out to me. And I don't say that to take away from what the third line did here tonight at all. They looked awesome from basically start to finish, but even they kind of had to get things going here a little bit and start to warm up into this game before they started to roll. And then Domi, Robertson, and McMahon looked pretty awesome. But it was those three and William Nylander. And Nylander was kind of doing that on his own. And Holmberg and JT kind of were just passengers a little bit through the beginning of the game. But I kept looking at Nylander, and it was something that I feel like people, and myself included, especially early on in his career, always ragged on him for and said, why doesn't he do that? Why is that piece of his game missing? And that was forechecking. And, he picks and chooses his spots, much like Austin Matthews does when you see him checking with his stick rather than his body. But he's so effective at it that oftentimes he's coming away with the puck and he's disrupting plays or he's forcing turnovers. William Nylander kind of does the same thing. And I started to notice and gain an appreciation for the way that he goes into the corner, where I think he's gotten to a point where early on in his career, it pissed me the hell off. But when he was going in, he will slow up a second. And he kind of times how he gets in there on the defenseman. And then he just puts a little bit of back pressure on the guy physically without slamming into him or anything like that. And he gets his stick inside and then rolls out with the puck. And he was doing that through the first period there. He was creating turnovers. He was getting in below the goal line. It wasn't like he's running in there and making bone-rattling hits or having the glass shake or anything by anything he's doing on a forechecking side of things. But he started that from the beginning, and he carried it on all the way throughout the game. There was numerous times where I watched Nylander tonight and watched him go in below the goal line, whether it was all on his own or if it was in there a part of a forecheck, whatever it may have been, or just kind of lingering as other people went for a change and Chicago was trying to break the puck out. Nylander would remain in the zone, and he was able to cause a turnover. The penalty that ends up getting taken on Bobby McMahon by Seth Jones there in the corner started with the William Nylander forecheck. There was 2 Blackhawks down in the bottom right corner. Nylander gets in on them. He's kind of like holding out, hesitating, waiting to turn around and go for a change as the rest of his line goes off, allowing Bobby McMahon and another member of his line to come out over the boards. Nylander stays, and then he turns back, puts some pressure on both guys, doesn't allow them to have a clean exit. It turns out to be a Leafs puck or cause a turnover behind the net. Then it's Bobby McMahon who gets in there, gets after Seth Jones, gets the puck back, and then next thing you know, the Leafs are going to a power play, which ultimately results in a Maple Leafs goal. It's little things like that, little details in the game that I thought William Nylander was pretty dialed in on here tonight. And I think that he deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's been playing and carrying it. And Unknown says there, no, he's afraid to be touched. Corners have the boogeyman in them. I don't think so. Nylander, to me, has been the one guy who has evolved his level of physical play significantly more than even some of the other stars on this team. I don't think necessarily a guy like John Tavares, just because of how well he plays on board battles and in the corners and that kind of stuff. And Nylander's not going to run out there and go and kind of run guys through the glass and be the one to initiate contact. But I think Robert Smith in the chat here is right, and I agree with this. Willie ain't a heavy checker or fighter, but he is not scared to take a hit, and we like that. I agree. I don't think he's afraid to take a hit, and I urge people to watch the way he approaches the corners now, and I think early on in his career, maybe there was a hesitancy to, I'm going to get thrown through the glass here, and I'm going to be the one who's getting killed, but the way he goes in there now, it's much different. It's much more methodical. It's much more mature, and he goes after that thing, and a lot of times he's forcing a turnover, or he himself is coming away with the puck. I don't know. I feel like Nylander, watching him, he's the one guy who more and more has stood out as not being afraid to take contact here and be afraid to kind of get into some type of physical altercation in terms of just like a spirited battle, maybe, if you want to say it that way, or a little bump when you're going to the boards or in the corner, just because he's so strong and he's so capable of, staying balanced and staying grounded. I don't know. I see Unknown there is not happy with the kind of commentary about Nylander. I disagree with him on that one. I much more in line with what Robert Smith is saying, and there's a couple other people who are talking about that in the chat there as well. I'm in line with that there with Nylander. He carries the puck in, as Fish Gypsy there says. Carries the puck in across the blue line pretty well. He maintains puck possession. He's able to go through the ice and kind of ward off with puck protection and taking physical play throughout the neutral zone up along the walls. Like him carrying it up the ice, him getting into the corners, it's been night and day from where he was at previously, and I think that we saw that early on. As I talked about Nylander there and the way he started this game with everyone else who kind of seemed a step behind and not necessarily like starting on time in this game here tonight, the third line was pretty excellent. I mean, Domi, McMahon, Robertson, I don't want to say called them out, but I think that we've all kind of come to a very similar conclusion with Nick Robertson. And, it's great to see him get on the board with a couple here tonight. You want to see this carried over, and you want to see him do it consistently here now. Max Domi is still the one guy that I'm sitting here going, holy crap, dude, I need to see you get on the board just for your own mental sake, because you got to get out of that, and you got to get beyond that one goal that's kind of like clouding everything in front of him. And I feel like it's, making him grip his stick really tight here. He's having good chances. He's getting good shots off, but the puck won't go in the goddamn net. Anyways, it's Nick Robertson who ends up scoring 2 goals here tonight, both coming off of incredible plays or passes by Max Domi. The one ultimately is off of Bobby McMahon, who goes hard into the corner, wins a forechecking battle, makes a nice one-handed pass out to Domi, who hits Nick Robertson across backdoor for like the little Chell tap-in goal. Look, this is going to piss people off because it's the same way we have it for Marner and people who talk about Marner stuff who kind of want, fail to see some of the deeper issues. And I get it. People fall in love with players here. It's a very common issue that happens in Toronto. Prospects, young kids, whatever it may be. And we look at these guys and we sit here and we say, oh, they can do it, or we don't want to move on because there's concern that they go somewhere else and they have success. Nick Robertson has gotten to a point here where I think a lot of the fan base or a lot of people who are watching this has kind of started to realize, okay, maybe he doesn't contribute the same way. Doesn't contribute the way that we thought he was going to. He scores a couple here tonight. I'm really happy for him because, as I talked about last night and as I will continue to bring up, this guy is busting his balls. Like, he is bringing it every single night. He is not afraid to take hits. He's not afraid to give hits. He's engaging in the forecheck. He's much more defensively involved. I don't want to say like inclined or responsible or anything like that. There's room for improvement in his game, but he is much more involved defensively there now than he was before, where he would just kind of be a passenger out there when you got to your own side of center ice or inside your own blue line. Nick Robertson has been much, much better as an all-around player. The only issue is, and Gord kind of touched on it last night, and I do agree with him, is just if you have a guy who's not scoring, you're kind of looking for them to maybe excel in other areas. And while I no longer think he's deficient or a liability in the other areas, he's kind of shored up a lot of those holes that he's had going on for a long period of time this season. We've continued to look at Nick Robertson and said, you need to score goals. Why aren't you scoring goals? He gets a couple here tonight, and I think it kind of pushes him in the right direction here yet again. But I just only kind of warn Leafs fans, and, I'm in this boat of watching that happen and saying, nice, good for you, because as it's progressed here, I've become much more of a Nick Robertson fan and wanting him to do well every single night, but you've got to score a little bit more consistently. Look, you are in the bottom six of this team, so nobody here is expecting you to score 30, 35, 40 goals. Like, that's not realistic. But can you score 20? Can you score 25? Can you be a contributor? Can you be a guy who could score 40, 45 points, 50 points maybe in a certain year? Can he get to that spot where he can contribute offensively? Because, look, I think the reality is we have struggled as an organization to get contributions and production from the bottom six, especially when it comes to playoffs. And a lot of times people want to give the pass to the big boys and say the bottom six has to score. The bottom six has to produce. So when I'm saying this, I want to kind of make sure we clarify here. The top six still has to fucking show up because it's something that they don't do a lot of the time when you get to the playoffs. But the bottom six has not helped that case. They have not helped that situation. Well, the bottom six here now, finally, over the last couple of games, and even in the stretch leading into the All-Star, has started to score a little bit more. You're seeing it from those guys a little bit more where you're getting some depth contributions. Tommy T there, do bottom six score 20 goals? Well, if you're a goal scorer, if you're a guy who's supposed to be able to contribute, why not? Like, why can't you score 20 goals? I mean, let me just look at, like, Phil Kessel when he was playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's one of the areas that I would look at with Phil and how he had played it towards even the end of his career there. His last years in Pittsburgh, he scored 26, 23, 34, 27. Then he went to Arizona and he scored 14, 20, and then he scored 14 in his last year with Vegas. Like 15 to 20. If you can score 15 to 20 in that range, like, you're helping this team significantly. He just kind of hadn't been. He's not producing at a consistent level. I'm really happy to see the production from Nick Robertson here and to see him get on the board a couple of times and see that hard work and that effort pay off. But, he's currently on pace to get just over 12 goals this year, barring injury and kind of staying on the production level that he's currently being on. But, and I know Tommy T is saying Robo's not Kessel. I know that, but that was also the end of Phil Kessel's career. 6 1/3, Zack, be happy with the way the bottom six has started after the Four Nations break. I am happy with the way they've started. I'm talking about how positive things have been from getting goals from Pontus Holmberg and production from McMahon and Alex Steves. And, Steven Lorentz even looked pretty dangerous here tonight. The only thing is, and again, and it's like I have this guy tweeting at me every night, the Only Leafs Fan pod on Twitter. How fitting that the Leafs' bottom six is starting to produce right before the trade deadline, so True Living can use it as an excuse to do nothing significant, rinse and repeat. That's like the only thing. You don't want to get recency bias from watching these guys over this like week-long stretch here over the next couple of games and say, oh wow, they can contribute, and then have it fall off. We haven't really got it consistently before the Four Nations break. You're getting it through a couple of games here now. Can it continue? You're not looking for them to produce the way that they are right now every single night, but I just want to see if they can kind of keep building off of this hot start out of the break and see if it's something that they can kind of make a little bit more stable heading into the trade deadline, heading into playoffs. Can they be a little bit more consistent? Unknown. Bottom six looks good out of the break. We will need them going forward. The offensive depth would be a blessing for us. 100%. 100% it would. And also on that would be defenseman scoring. You know, Morgan Rielly has been a massive topic of conversation this season, and rightfully so, especially kind of as December started to push on in late December, and then we were leading into Four Nations break. It becomes abundantly more clear that Morgan Rielly is not contributing. And we all know he's a guy who does not help you defensively. He's got some serious deficiencies in his game on the back end, and he's just not been scoring. He's not been putting up points. He's not producing on the offensive end of things. Well, no one else defensively really is, because who's going to get those? Connor Timmins has been struggling recently. Simone Benoit is not the guy who's going to do that. Jake McCabe, Chris Tanev, they're not really traditional point getters from the back end there. Ekman Larsson, sure, he's a guy who can do that for you, can help you out. And, you know, I think that a lot of his production can come dependent on who his partners are. If he's got someone a little bit more stabilizing, then maybe Oliver Ekman Larsson is able to produce at a higher clip. Or maybe he's more comfortable to be joining in the offense. I think whenever he gets paired alongside Morgan Rielly, it holds him back from the offensive side of things, because there's always that concern in the back of your head that, like, my partner's going to make a pinch at the wrong time or get out of position in the defensive zone or something like that. While OEL has his own flaws and he's struggled, like on that goal with 6 seconds left in the second period and kind of loses himself and then corkscrews himself into the ice, that's not who he's been this season. He's been pretty consistent. He's been pretty reliable. He's a calming presence back there who's able to move the puck up the ice pretty easily. And then you look at the partner that he's playing with currently here right now in Morgan Rielly, and he's the guy who's making the most money on the back end, and he's the guy who's failing to get points on the board. So when you get production from McCabe and Tanev and guys like that, it feels a whole lot better, because you're like, oh wow, our defense scored. When realistically, you probably should be getting point production more frequently, especially from a Morgan Rielly. And probably Oliver Ekman Larsson, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I feel like there's a little bit of a struggle right now going on with playing with Morgan Rielly. And it's unfortunate, because Morgan Rielly went into the break looking pretty decent. And he caps things off as he goes into that break, into the last game, you know, plays in Vancouver. Okay, he looked pretty decent in that game. It's where his family's from. Maybe he's calm and comfortable. Maybe he can go in, head held high. You get back after a little bit of a break and you hit things in the right direction. It's kind of not looked great over the last two. Last night against Carolina and tonight against Chicago here yet again. So, you know, it's nice to see production from other guys on that back end, because it's not something we've been used to this season. That's Chris Tanev's second goal. And mind you, it's an ugly one that basically TJ Brody scores for him, but it's still a goal, and it's still a defenseman goal. And look, I'm going to say something here that is just, you guys are going to look at me and you're going to say, no shit, Sherlock. And I get it, because it's one of the most basic principles of all time. But Jake McCabe shoots the puck off that draw there, won by Austin Matthews, and you get forwards going to the net, taking away the goaltender's eyes. You cause confusion amongst the defenders for the Blackhawks there. McCabe fires that thing through a screen, and it beats the goaltender for the Blackhawks. And all of a sudden, the Leafs defensemen just start firing away. You look back after that one goal goes in, and all of a sudden, it's like there's this conceited effort from the Maple Leafs to just shoot pucks from the point. And it's like, wow, imagine shooting pucks and getting pucks on net can create good things. There was a couple of opportunities that came after, from McCabe shots, from Tanev shots, from OEL firing the puck through. Like, guys start putting the puck on the net, and all of a sudden there's traffic in front, there's deflections that are going on, there's rebounds popping out, there's opportunities that are happening there. And then next thing you know, Chris Tanev fires a shot as he gets it across at the point, puts that thing on net, rebound pops out, terrible rebound control from Soderblom. Holmberg is on the doorstep anyways, so even if it doesn't hit Brody, there's a good chance that Holmberg is the one who's going to be able to bury that. It hits Brody's skate and goes in. I mean, I look around and I'm sitting there going, how the fuck are we just not shooting pucks? You know, it's like one of the most simple concepts of all time. And I sound and look like the biggest caveman of all time saying this here right now, especially about a team that's first in the Atlantic. But it's like, no shit. You put pucks on net and you get your defenseman involved by just putting things through and having traffic in front of the goaltender. Good things happen. Good things happen when you shoot the puck on net. And that's how you get there. Tanev, his goal. Jake McCabe, his goal. Those things end up in the back of the net just because you put them on the net. It's a simple concept, really. We are currently sitting at 27 likes. This is just about over 100 people here currently watching the post-game stream. Appreciate everyone who's watching as we return from the Four Nations break. We had a pretty decent show there last night after the game against Carolina. Try to carry that thing over into tonight and then build off of this one as we're going to have kind of like a hectic schedule towards the deadline and to close out the season. I mean, I'm looking at this it felt insane as we led up to the Four Nations, and then as we're kind of pulling away, we're getting to the deadline and we're getting to the playoffs. Every time I look at the calendar, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, what is going on? And you know what? It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. And as we do get to the deadline here, one thing that you guys are going to want to do is mark your calendars because you do not want to miss out on the most exciting day of the NHL season. The Daily Faceoff Trade Deadline Special is coming your way from March 7th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. And the DFO Live team is going to be breaking down every single move as it happens. Instant reaction, expert analysis, and all the behind-the-scenes drama of the biggest trades and news around the league. Plus, there will be special guests lined up throughout the show to give you exclusive insights from some of the biggest names in the game. From the blockbuster deals to the surprise moves, they'll be covering it all. So what are you waiting for? Tune in to Daily Faceoff's YouTube channel and follow Daily Faceoff on socials on March 7th. And let's break down the biggest deadline day in hockey. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Make sure to head on over to Daily Faceoff. And look, I will say this as well. Head on over to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel because you're going to want to be there for the trade deadline special on March 7th. But on top of that, Monday to Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, the sheet with Jeff Merrick kicks off. I watch Morning Cup of Hockey every day at 9 a.m. Eastern time. It's an unbelievable show. Our guy, producer Vic, is the producer of the Morning Cup of Hockey show. It's just covering everything NHL. But then at 3 p.m. Eastern time, the sheet with Jeff Merrick, I'm producing. I'm on there with Jeff talking things that are going on in the NHL, recapping everything, providing my opinions on it as well. So you guys, if you want more of me, for whatever reason, you can find me over there as well. Make sure to subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. All right, let's continue on with what we've got in the chat here and seeing how you guys are feeling about this one. I see this comment, Mike Batson, Brody lost a step, and there's other people bringing up comments about TJ Brody. Look, that's one thing I will pat myself on the back for last year, and obviously I'm not trying to wish anything, poor career. I don't want to put any bad juju out or wish anything poor to be going on with TJ Brody in his career, obviously, but pretty early I had noticed that one. It was a year and a half ago or a season and a half ago. You could start to tell that there was a step missing in that guy's game. He was kind of declining, and I remember people just kept saying we need this guy, and I felt like we were watching him rapidly decline, and now he's in a position there in Chicago where they're legitimately contemplating buying him out. That's where they're at with TJ Brody right now in his first season with the Chicago Blackhawks, which is kind of a shocking turn of events considering he was one of the best defensemen, one of the most trustworthy shutdown defensemen, especially in his early days here in Toronto, to kind of where he's currently at now. It's sad to see for him and the rapid decline, but it's probably for the best for the Leafs to be out of a TJ Brody contract and not have him part of the system anymore, just because of the decline that we've seen take place. HK Chinese Canadian, Zack, best thing about the Leafs, Tanev and McCabe are the best defensive pairing in the NHL. Leafs never seems to have that. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think that they are the best defensive pairing in the NHL. I think that if you look at Jakub Slavin and his pairing there, or if maybe you look at Gavrikov in LA. Like, there's probably some pairings that are pretty competitive with them, and ones that you could say are, yeah, at least right there, if not better than them. But holy shit, those guys have been good this season. Like, every single time I see them on the ice, I feel pretty comfortable that pucks aren't getting through, that net front battles are going to be won, corner battles are going to be won. The one thing, too, on top of that is a lot of times you can look at these defensive defensemen and they struggle in other areas of the game. So, a lot of times you see the puck goes down into the offensive zone, and giving them the puck at the blue line is basically, just kind of waving the white flag on your offensive zone time, because they're going to handle that thing like it's a grenade and they can't figure out what to do with it. Or they get the puck in the corner after winning a battle and they're not the greatest at making a pass out. And you kind of see that maybe like, oh, stay at home defenseman, great stick, but maybe the guy's not great at pass or great skate, or they're lacking some other area to their game. McCabe and Tanev have been fucking unbelievable. Like, these guys have been outrageously good at shutting down plays, taking away time and space, and then quickly and efficiently turning the puck up the ice. Like, you watch these guys close out, close gaps down, take away time and space, pinch guys off, they get to the corner, they win a battle, or the puck comes in front of the net. They're eating every single pill that comes in front there. Nobody's getting inside of them. Nobody's being able to box them out or kind of make their way free or anything like that. Like, they're not losing defensive positioning. If they're being scored on, a lot of times it feels like it's just some bad bounce or lucky goal, or like a forward missed an assignment, and it has nothing to do with them. Those two guys have been unbelievable. And then you watch them move the puck up the ice, get the puck out of the zone, make clean passes on a breakout, join into an offensive play. And while they're not the most offensively inclined players here, clearly, and they're not guys that you're going to rely upon to score goals, like, we're not looking at Cale Makar out there, but these guys are at least, capable of being in the offensive zone. They're at least capable of going in there and participating beyond the blue line, which is kind of just nice to see. And again, another caveman comment by me, or just simple brain comment, which I get, but it's like, it's nice to see these guys who are your high-end defensemen and the guys who are going to play probably 28 minutes, maybe 30 minutes a night in the playoffs, who can go out there and eat pills and win all of their defensive minutes, also be able to at least just like help you advance the puck up the ice and transition from defense to offense. It's a nice change of pace. It's very refreshing, because traditionally I feel like this Leafs team is looking for a guy who's like the puck mover who gets it up the ice, or you've got that guy and you're looking to counterbalance with, hey, here's the puck mover who can't play defense to save his life. We need to get him a defenseman who can block everything and save him, but he's got to give it to the puck mover, so the puck mover is the one who gets it out. At least when you look at McCabe and Tanev, again, they're not Cale Makar back there, but damn, they can turn the puck up the ice pretty quickly, and it's nice to see. It's very comforting, and it makes me feel like if you go into a playoff series knowing those are your two best guys who are going up against the other team's best players, night in, night out, shift in, shift out, man, that is a very, very comfortable place to be as a Leafs fan right now. And again, another solid night from those guys. And on top of that, both of them getting rewarded with goals. Lucky or not, you can tell me. I don't really care. Goal is a goal. They don't ask how, they ask how many. 2 for Chris Tanev, for those keeping track at home. But regardless, it's fun. There's a lot of talk about Cale Makar in there and his ability to move the puck up the ice, and a guy like that would kind of, that I would look at as a great shutdown guy who can transition well would also be Devon Toews, and both of those guys would be on the Colorado Avalanche. And if you want to see the Leafs take on the Colorado Avalanche with the Leafs Nation crew, you can join us for Flight Night. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is right. You can join us for Flight Night at Greta Bar YYZ, an awesome event. If you were joining us there back on February 15th, Saturday, February 15th, for the Canada-USA game, like Max Entius Decimus there, who's active in the chat right now, or KPG, you would have got to experience a pretty awesome game and a pretty awesome venue as we all watched that one together. Producer Vic, Nick Alberga, myself. I believe there's a chance Jay Rosehill comes in for this one. But not only that, we've talked a lot about the trip to Nashville that's going to be coming up. Well, you're going to have an opportunity to get yourself out there to Nashville at Greta Bar on March 8th. It's an opportunity that you're not going to want to miss out on, because you can join us for flight night as we watch Toronto take on Colorado and get your shot at an unforgettable Nation vacation. One lucky winner and their guests will travel with the Leafs Nation crew and fellow Nation vacationers to Nashville, Tennessee from March 20th to 23rd, where Toronto will take on Nashville. The round trip airfare from Toronto to Nashville, Tennessee with Air Canada, bus transportation to and from the airport, 3-night stay at the 4.5-star Waymore's Guest House and Casual Club. On Friday, March 21st, there will be an exclusive bar event at Love and Exile Wine Bar featuring a live podcast recording and special surprise guests. Group tickets to watch Toronto take on Nashville at Bridgestone Arena. And on top of that, you get to hang out with Jay Rosehill and Carter Hutton. That's the best part. Must have a valid passport that is not expiring within 6 months of travel. You must be 21 plus to enter. See full rules on nationgear.ca. If you're wondering how to win, well, by purchasing a ticket, you're automatically entered into the raffle draw. Purchase more raffle tickets to support one broken biker and to be entered again. Additional entries are $20 each. General admission for the event is $10. VIP admission is $40, which includes a Greta burger, beverage, and a game card. It will be a pretty awesome experience, and as we've said numerous times, it'll be a pretty awesome experience down there in Nashville, so you guys will not want to miss it. I mean, it was pretty cool getting to meet up with some of you guys who were watching, and notably there, Maxentius Decimus and KPG, who are buzzing around in the chat all the time. We talk to them virtually. We've had Maxentius call into the show, but you never get to put faces to the names in the chat or learn what people's real names or any of that kind of stuff, and getting to actually finally meet people and learn who they are and that kind of stuff. It's a cool experience. Maxentius Decimus, did Zack ever read my super chat? I might have missed it when my internet was dying. No, not yet here. I was trying to save that and get through some of the stuff there, Max, and might as well get to that now. As we talked about, we do have the Sick Kids charity sponsor here on the show. So proceeds from Maxentius's super chat going to Sick Kids. Let's get to our first one of the show. Maxentius Decimus says, Chicago's second goal is exactly why we can't have Domi as the 3C. You're good, Max. You're good. I was just trying to time it there because I wanted to talk about Domi and the 3C spot and that kind of stuff. Max saying that second goal is the Chicago goal is exactly why we can't have Max Domi as the 3C. Yes, Robert, I never forget to read the super chats. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, realistically, you probably want to upgrade on it. I'm interested to see how this plays out because I wonder if long-term, what they want to do with the second line left wing spot. I don't necessarily feel comfortable going into the playoffs with Pontus Holmberg as your second line left winger. I wonder if, in a sense here, he's filling in as a placeholder for Pacioretty until he returns, and then they're going to try to put him back in that spot and get him going again after this injury. And, I mean, additionally, the reason they would do that, in my mind, if I'm trying to break things out, is you're trying to figure out what you've got on that third line with Bobby McMahon there. I think that in a playoff situation, having Bobby McMahon on your third line and in your bottom six benefits you a lot more when it comes to depth and waves of attack than it does loading him up into a top six. Maybe if you're desperate for something late in a game and you're dying to get a goal or some type of pitch in or something, that's when you put Bobby McMahon. You're looking to change the way the game's being played or whatever, then you put him up there because you know what he brings and you know he's pretty reliable and he's got some energy and that kind of stuff. But I wonder if they just look at McMahon and think okay, you are a guy we can play anywhere in this lineup right now, but if we can find you some chemistry on this third line, you're much more useful to us there because you're harder to handle for other teams' third lines or fourth lines, however they want to match them up. If you put him up into the top 6, then maybe it just kind of like makes those layers a little bit weaker, but having McMahon down into the third line and in your bottom 6 makes you harder to deal with. Now, on top of that, where you'd also start to have to look would be at Max Domi. And unknown there says, we all know, I think that Max isn't a bona fide center. Definitely not a top 3 center. Still good to have a winger that can slot in at times, but can't be a regular thing. I just wonder if maybe they look to see what goes on in the battle between Max Domi and Nick Robertson and who stays here and kind of what you've got in Calle Jarnkrok when he comes back to the lineup and what you've got with Alex Steeves with him jumping in and looking pretty decent through these first 2 games of his Leafs tenure this season specifically. We know he's played games in years past, but just kind of figuring out who can fit where. You know McMahon is going to be there. You're trying to fit him into that third line. I don't think Holmberg ends up being your second line left winger, so maybe they're trying to find somebody else out there. Maybe they're waiting for Max Pacioretty, but maybe they end up looking at this thing and saying, it's going to be really hard to find a 3C. So let's find a really good third line right winger. Maybe they don't think it's as feasible to go out and acquire, or easy to do, to go out and acquire a guy that just replaces Max Domi, whether it's because of the ask out there on the market and how expensive the piece may be. Maybe it's because of the guy's contract or the contracts of some of those centers who could potentially fit in that spot, and you're not going to be able to fit them back into your lineup. So maybe you decide that the best way to fit this is going to be Nick Robertson has to move out of that third line right wing spot, and Max Domi has to be there. Well, leaving those 3 guys together maybe gives you the best opportunity of at least developing chemistry with at least like 2 out of 3 of them, because it could be either McMahon and Domi and they change the right winger, or McMahon and Robertson and they change the centerman, and then you kind of rotate through pieces like that. But that seems to me like the complex way of approaching this, but maybe that's why they're kind of putting together the lines the way they are as we get closer and closer to this deadline, to basically say, figure out which one of you is best with McMahon and figure out which one of you wants to stay here the most. Try to figure out what you've got out of Max Domi. Now, as per the conversation about, Max Domi, that second goal, that's why we don't want him as the 3C. I mean, I take that one, I just kind of throw it out the window. Like, yeah, that was a stupid play. That was a bad reaction by Domi. He goes fishing on that puck. He ends up falling. But it's also OEL in front who corkscrews himself into the ice. It's just like, everyone on that play had to be better. Like, let's just call it what it is. There was 15 seconds left in the game. They score immediately after you do, and there's 6 seconds remaining on the clock. I talk all the time about how the last minute goals, or the first minute goals in periods as well, can be absolutely daggers to you. Then you look around and you see a goal like that, and it's just like, really? Sub 10, there's 6 seconds left. What the fuck? But, I mean, grand scheme of things, Maxentius, that third line center position, and looking at Domi, that goal, I'm not looking at that one and saying that's why he can't be there. Yeah, bigger picture, sure, we can have that conversation separately, but that one is not necessarily the one. We got another super chat. So for context on this super chat, by the way, I saw it come in. I didn't read it yet because I was going through that conversation there about Max Domi and trying to figure out what was happening and what people were talking about. I've seen a couple of responses to this super chat already that it seems like this is a pretty well-received super chat. Like, I still haven't read it here. LOL, bro, skullface. Max Entius says super chat of the year right here. So let's see what we've got. So Sangnam, appreciate the super chat as proceeds go to Sick Kids here for the super chats sent into the show. So Sangnam says, obviously the best fix for the fourth line is to move Matthews, Marner, and Nyes there, so the Leafs have the best fourth line in the league. Hashtag big brain coaching. All right. So Sangnam, fair enough, yeah. I mean, if you're assembling basically like the Four Nations rosters and you look out at Canada and US and you're looking at the fourth line and you're basically saying to yourself, oh yeah, every single line is actually a fourth line if it were to be back in the NHL. Yeah, that's I mean, yeah, that was what we just watched for like the last 10 days before this return to NHL action. We've got another super chat here as well. Robert Smith with the super chat. Doesn't say anything, just sends the super chat. And it is a super sticker, actually, not just a super chat, a super sticker that says, keep it up. Robert, thank you. Appreciate it. Remember, proceeds from our super chats do go to Sick Kids. Very awesome cause here on the program. So thank you guys for getting those in, for continuing to send those. Goes to a great cause. Okay, let's get to a couple of other things here and we'll wrap up the show. I mean, this thing will probably end up being just about an hour on the night here. So thank you guys for watching and participating. Max Entius, love the new animations and music. Thank you, Max Entius. We'll see what else we can do as we get closer to the trade deadline and the playoffs there as well. I feel like if we can add more and... does the kids get that from a sticker, Robert? Yes, they do. But we'll see what else we can do from animations and music perspective. I changed the intro music, as you guys have seen. Cleaned up the play of the game a little bit there. Changed the super chat. So, we're trying to put together a professional program for you people, although I am just an idiot yelling into the camera behind the screen. But regardless, try to make it somewhat of like well-respected or well-put-together show, like the best that we possibly can. All right, let's get to our final stuff here of the night and wrap this thing up. And as we do, let's get to let's just go to our tonight's best bet, because yet another one back to back here, we were battling. And you know what? It's to be expected, especially when you're going on runs like this. It is what it is. I'm your idiot. Robert says, yes, that is fair. When you're taking shots at plus money stuff like this, it is expected to happen and kind of pop in and out where you're going to have success for a bit and then you're going to fall off. And our best bet segment is brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of the Leaf Station pregame and the Leaf Station After Dark. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION, NATION. That's code NATION, NATION, all caps, and you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Well, tonight, 6 1/3, asking, how'd you lose, Zack? Tonight, I bet on Matthew Knies to record over 2.5 shots on goal. I thought we'd get an opportunity from him to get the 3+ there. I think a lot of what ended up happening was the start of the game. Just nobody on the Maple Leafs deciding to shoot the puck kind of put us behind the 8 ball on that one. Obviously, you had a surge late, but Matthew Knies ends up finishing the night with 1 shot on goal. You look around, Nick Robertson had 5, Matthews had 4, and Pontus Holmberg had 3. Outside of that, no one on the Leafs ended up clearing that 2.5 shot on goal mark. I thought it was going to be a night where you kind of just roll in there against Chicago, take it to them offensively. Maybe you put up 35, 40 shots. Knies gets himself in front. He's getting tips. He's getting rebounds. He's poking and whacking away at pucks and getting chances. It just ends up not being the case for Matthew Knies. He only gets 1 shot on goal. Plus 230 was the best bet there. We're trying to take a little bit of a swing. It would have profited us here $115 on the night, but we do end up losing. So that's our 3rd consecutive. We lost the one before the break there on a Max Domi anytime goal, does not cash. We lost the one on Max Domi last night, anytime goal. And then this one here tonight, over 2.5 shots on goal, ends up losing as well. But don't worry about it. We are still up 6.25 units on the season. And if you've been following along with our units and our bankroll management and all that kind of stuff, that will be a profit of $625 on the season. So even though we're kind of up and down here and there, we are still up on the year. This loss does bring our record, though, to 21-39. So 60 best bets that we've given out. And we're currently sitting at 21-39. It's record-wise, I wish that would be better. 6 1/3 says, and all the Sweden stuff. Well, I wasn't doing shows during the Four Nations as well, 6 1/3. So, I couldn't have given out some of the anytime goal stuff. I'm not going to victory lap it now, but there were other things being bet. The Sweden stuff was pre-tournament, all right? The Sweden stuff was pre-tournament. It didn't go well. You're right, but it's okay. Charlie says, Domi doesn't score anytime goals, LOL. Clearly, we're losing those. I think probably anytime and every time that I've bet a Domi anytime goal, it's lost here on the show. So you hate to see it, but it is what it is. And hopefully one of these gets through the uprights at some point. Marquise Maintenance. Hey, Zack, love what you're doing. Thank you, Marquise. Thank you for all the support. If you guys are enjoying the show here tonight, make sure to hit that Domi anytime overpasses. Fair. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel. Leafs Nation 401. The boys return tomorrow to talk about NHL action for the first time in 2 weeks on Leafs Morning Take, breaking down everything from this weekend, talking about what we can expect as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline right here on Leafs Morning Take, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So subscribe, Leafs Nation 401. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there as a reminder. I know that the show is on YouTube and we're watching, you guys are watching live here after games. You guys watch recorded videos after the fact, all that kind of stuff, and I appreciate the support. For those who are wondering or know friends who are looking for shows and maybe they can't watch it, but they have time to listen, the Leafs Nation After Dark is also available on all podcasting platforms. So I just want to throw that out there. If you want to listen to the show or you watched it in real time and you want to listen to it back after the fact, you want to listen again, or you missed part of it and you want to listen, can't watch all of it, it is available on all podcasting platforms, so check that out. But like the show here today, get 4 more, we'll get to 50. Subscribe here to the channel. Check us out on all podcasting platforms. But thank you again for all the support. Let's get to our play of the game. Our play of the game segment is, let's just make the segment presented by Greta Bar YYZ. Why not? Greta Bar is an unbelievable spot that I've been pretty frequently over the last little while. You would have seen me there, whether it was for the Four Nations Finals or for the Canada-US game. And, Greta is a spot that we'll be back at on March 8th. But on top of that, Greta's a spot that I'm going to pretty frequently, even if it's not for shows and it's not for Leafs Nation stuff. My friends and I love going there. It's just an unbelievable spot, whether it's for the street food that they've got, if it's for the 60-plus arcade games. It's a great spot before, during, and after sporting events there as well, whether you're trying to watch those like we did on the Saturday night or we will be doing on March 8th. Make sure to check out Greta Bar. Greta Bar is the place to be, 590 King Street West. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. All right, play of the game here for me tonight. Play of the game, honestly, I feel like early on could have been a lot of Joseph Woll stuff, but I feel like I'm going to have to give this one to the Nick Robertson goal that was scored that started with the Bobby McMahon play into the corner. He gets down there, hustles his way into the corner, and wins the battle against 2 Chicago Blackhawks, rotates out, and makes a nice pass over to Max Domi, who's coming in as support. As he does that, if you notice on the far side, Nick Robertson kind of juts himself back out and gets into an open spot there for Max Domi to hit him, and he buries it back door. That one goes for me because that was involvement from all 3 guys on the ice. That was all 3 guys who kind of involved themselves, whether it was Harden on the forecheck, it was hustle down the ice, it was making sure to get there quickly and effectively. Like, they were on top of it. They were on top of the play. They made it hard for Chicago's defenders here tonight. And then you ultimately end up turning that thing around and getting Robertson on the board, and Domi collects a couple of points. It was just a great play all around. It was a great assist by Max Domi. And it ultimately ends up capped off by a Nick Robertson goal, who's a guy that we've been looking at and saying, like, you need to contribute, you need to score more. Well, there you go. He gets back on he gets back on the score sheet, and it feels good to see that third line like contributing and getting on the board and stepping up there, because we've been looking for production from your bottom 6 all season. Finally, it does it. Finally, they get there. So that was a great play to see. That was a great play and a great goal there to end up seeing for that third line, and that's going to be my play of the game. Honorable mention there as well, I would quickly give it to the Max Domi hustle down into the corner where he gets the puck, he beats out the defender, wheels down into the corner, rips it across to Nick Robertson, who ends up tapping it in back door there because the hustle by Domi, the hustle by Robertson, and the fact that it was late in the period. We love seeing goals get scored late in the period for this team. Unfortunately, we ended up seeing one on the other end there as well. 9 seconds or whatever it was later. So, yeah, you probably want to eliminate that, but great play by them to get that goal just before. I see the comments in the chat here where people are asking, why is it YYZ? Tommy T, what do Canadians mean when they say YYZ, Ontario International Airport? Well, YYZ would be just the name of the Toronto Pearson Airport. I don't know why it's that. I couldn't tell you. Look at the other airports. Like, there's other ones that have different names. But Tommy T says, why does Zack say Greta Bar YYZ? Is the bar in Pearson? No, the bar is not in Pearson. It's Greta Bar YYZ because we've got one in Toronto. There's a Greta Bar in Edmonton. There's a Greta Bar in Vancouver. That's why. Greta Bar YYZ. It's just the Toronto location. All right? It's Toronto location. Keep liking the stream. Let's get out of here. Before we get out of here with our final segment, you guys know about it, and we talked about it. Marquise there in the chat has asked, any update on the Nashville trip? Yes, the Nashville trip will be taking place March 20th to 23rd down in Music City. Packing our jerseys and heading to Nashville to watch Toronto take on Nashville in their own barn. You get live podcasts. You get to head over to 11XL Wine Bar. Carter Hutton, G. Rosehill, Nick Alberga, all the boys will be down there. The live podcast as well with some special guests hopping by, so you don't want to miss it. Make sure to head on over to nationgear.ca, whether you're looking for flight packages or non-flight packages. We've got it all. You don't want to miss out on this. It's going to be the trip of a lifetime. Thank you so much to everyone who has already purchased tickets, and if you're looking to join and looking to head on over there with the boys, make sure to go there now to nationgear.ca because this is a trip you do not want to miss. Okay. Grade of the game. I see some people firing it in the chat there already. I think that I'm going to end up going here. Grade of the game is going to be, I think I'm just going to run back with a B+. You played the second night of a back-to-back. Tonight was the travel game. You played at home last night. You probably fly overnight to Chicago there. Maybe you get in late and then kind of deal with the game day stuff here today. It's maybe not the normal routine that you're dealing with. You play against the Blackhawks, and it's going to be like they're coming out not really, a little bit rusty, but for a team that's not been good all year, and on top of that, they played last night, and it's just like going to be a weird sleepy one. You've had a bad track record in Chicago. You start off slow, and then you very quickly turn this thing around and kind of took control of the game, which I appreciated. I mean, I wish they started better, and you do this against a better team, it's going to kind of kick you in the teeth, but deserve to win a meter goes to 85.6% here on the night. You outshot them. You outchanced them. Your goaltending was much better than theirs was. Joseph Woll finishes the night with a great save percentage. Your finishes here on can't get through these. Can't get through my words. Oh my God! Finishes tonight with a .926 save percentage. Allows 2 goals on 27 shots. Makes 25 saves. Good night from your goaltending. You end up 2 here on the power play. 1 for 3. I mean, it's your second unit who's really getting things going. And there was times where they looked really broken up, and there's times where all of a sudden it's like just slinging it around like crazy. I don't know why they can't just kind of keep it consistent throughout. Hopefully that's something they can figure out how to do. Feels like the second unit plays a little bit more simple hockey, I don't know, than what you see out of the first unit, where it's like put pucks on net and just go crash the net and get in hard. Whereas the first unit is like out of trying to be too fancy or something. Not really sure. We've talked about this beat it to death, so I don't want to dig back in. But, they struggle to get into the zone. It's the second unit who finds a way to do it pretty frequently where it's like, oh, wow, they look dangerous. The Hawks power play does go 1-for-1 there, but, honestly, you break that play down, it's Connor Timmins being soft on a puck in front of the net. If he's stronger and he wins that battle, he's getting that puck, and the Blackhawks don't score that goal by Teravainen. It doesn't happen. Good goaltending. Wish you could have done better on your special teams, but 1-for-1, whatever. They scored. Move on with it. Closed out the game strong. Nylander looked good. I thought Matthews looked pretty dangerous tonight. I thought Marner looked good. Your depth scoring, your defense are on the board. Your third line looked really good. Nick Robertson scores too. I can't really be mad with this performance. I'll just go with the B+. I think that's fair. Second night of a back-to-back, shaking the rust off. You get things going here, and maybe you can get on a roll. You've won 5 of your last 6 as well, and you took over first place in the Atlantic. I can't be mad about a night like tonight, and I don't think people in the chat should be mad about a night like tonight either. That'll do it for me here on the show. I appreciate everyone who watched and tuned in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications as well. That's one thing I want to ask people to do. We don't do it enough. Turn on notifications. You've liked, you've subscribed. If you turn on notifications, you get notified every time anything comes out here on the channel, whether it's clips from the show, interviews, our shows go live. People miss them and come in late. You want to make sure you get notified that we are going live. Turn on notifications. You'll get notified immediately. Show's gone live. Show is on the air. The post-game shows kind of maneuver around sometimes. We're not always at the same time. Just because a game could end earlier, a game could end later, maybe you're expecting it to go on at a certain time, and things change a little bit. You don't want to miss any of that stuff. On top of that, pregame videos that are coming out, those kinds of stuff. You don't want to miss anything. So make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications here on the channel as well. I'm not going to duck out of this one. We hit 50 likes right as we're wrapping up here tonight. Thanks everyone who watched, subscribed, liked. Here's the smelling salts, and let's wrap this up. There you go. Thanks for watching here, everyone. Appreciate it. This has been game number 57 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, defeating the Chicago Blackhawks 5-2 here tonight. We will return to action on the post-game show and the pre-game show on Tuesday as the Toronto Maple Leafs take on the Boston Bruins. That'll be an exciting one. Until then, everybody, enjoy the morning show tomorrow and Tuesday. I'll catch up with you guys on Tuesday night. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.